Hello everyone, back checking into today's second video. We're going to do GWV Sunday Round-Up for today's second video, so it's going to be your Sunday afternoon eclectic mix-up this and that. We're going to be looking at things like solar activity, sea surface temperature, anomalies, ENSO, the SOI, the QBO, the NEO, the AO, and the weather for next week, 10 days and beyond. At the very end of the video, you will actually see a few charts for winter 2020-2021, can you believe? How's that for long range update? Of course, that's just a little bit of fun. So that'll be at the end of the video, and I'll get on with the Sunday Roundup for you in a moment. Just to say that the first video release day was the second summer 2020 analogs update. That's looking at winter to summer data. Quite an interesting watch. So have a look at that if you haven't done so already. And that video will be placed on the summer updates page with a written summary of everything we discussed in the video. And I'll get that up for you this evening. Right, let's get on with it, mate. We're going to start off with solar activity. Now, I haven't got any of the trackers today. James is still recovering from his operation. Richard having a few days away. So we have got the image observer disk on our side of this day from solarham.net. However, we have a spotless solar disk, so there are no sunspots visible at the moment. And, of course, it's been the case very regularly over the past few weeks and months. We're at solar minimum, and we're going to be staying at solar minimum for the time being as well. We're at the end of solar cycle number 24. So, solar activity is at very low levels and is expected to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days. And Solarham is reporting that. So, yes, the ongoing solar minimum continues. This is how the oceans were looking last week. We did last week's GWV Sunday Roundup. So we've got 3 areas of interest. We've got the ENSO region just here. And we've got the Northern Pacific over here. And we've got the North Atlantic over there. So, as I say, that's how the oceans were looking when we did last week's GWV Sunday Roundup. Let's have a look at the very latest to see what's happened. So, in the ENSO region, very little change there, really. We remain at ENSO neutral at the moment. We've been at ENSO neutral for quite some time, a few months now. And ENSO neutral condition continues. We can see it is cold on average just to the south of the equatorial Pacific with those sea surface temperature anomalies, so that might be the precursor to the beginning of a La Nina, a cold event, but at the moment it's too early to say that definitively. And so at the moment we are at ENSO neutral. In the Northern Pacific it remains a little bit colder than we've had for a while. If we go back to last week again, you can see that up here we have got this colder than average area of sea surface temperature anomalies, like around the coast of Alaska and around the coast of America and into the deeper waters actually off the coast of North America as well. And how that compares with the latest is that things have got a little bit colder actually in this northeastern corner up here. I think the cold average sea surface temperature anomalies are continuing to expand out. This is the coldest that we've seen up here for a few years. I think 2017, 2018 did go quite cold in that area. But before that, you really have to go back to the early part of last decade for a consistent cold average signal here. Generally, over the past few years, it's been warmer than average. So this is quite a significant change on what we've had for some time, actually. It may only be temporary, of course. It may be that those warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies will come back. But at the moment, we are seeing definite cool down in the northern and northeastern Pacific. Again, that might be the precursor to La Nina. Generally, if the Pacific is in a colder state, then both in the north and in the South Pacific, then it is a little bit easier for La Nina to get going. We haven't had an appreciable La Nina. We did have a weak La Nina in 2017-18, but we haven't had an appreciable La Nina since I think the last one was around 2010-11. And then again, 2011, 2012, it's like a 2-year La Nina. But the first year, I think, 2010, 2011, was stronger than the second year. But anyway, it's been some time since we've had a sort of a moderate or a strongish sort of La Nina. So it could be that we're going to see something a little bit cold in terms of the events. So in the next few months, we should wait and see about that. It's early days, and I think we need to see this area going quite a lot colder than it is as well, expanding out kind of thing. But anyway, we'll keep a close eye on that over the coming days. In the North Atlantic, again, let's go back to last week, see how things were looking last week. So we've got this colder than average area of sea surface temperature anomalies up here, warmer than average through the tropical Atlantic. That's how it looked last week. The very latest is like that, so still quite warm off the coast of Africa, very significantly above average with sea surface temperature anomalies there, and expanding out into the tropical Atlantic as well. Going further northward, so the colder than average area sea surface temperature anomalies continues in the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean, and in between it's near north, it is a bit warmer. Close to the Azores. Very little change in the North Atlantic at the moment. It'll be interesting to see whether these warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies through the tropics are maintained. Of course, if they are, then that will help to generate storms and hurricanes potentially into the summer, particularly if it's combined with a La Nina. So we could be heading for quite an active hurricane season, but of course it will depend on whether we're going to go into a La Nina, and it will depend on whether that much warmer than average area of sea surface temperature anomalies continues, particularly off the coast of Africa, because that's kind of like the development zone just here. That's like the development zone for those storms and hurricanes. So if the sea surface temperature anomalies stay like 4 to 5 degrees above average there through into the summer and then on into the autumn, then obviously that will be quite impactful potentially. But it is really early days, only March. Things could look quite different in around 3 months' time. This is a Southern Oscillation Index from Queensland Government, which is part of the Bureau of Meteorology. This is sort of an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state really down in the Southern Pacific Ocean. It's not driving anything in its own terms. None of these indexes do. It's same with the AO and the NAO and the QBO. They are all just indexes that are measuring the air pressures, really measuring the atmospheric state. But when the SOI is in its positive phase, then the atmospheric state will be reflective of a La Nina. When the SOI is in its negative phase, then the atmospheric state will be reflective of El Nino. So we've been around ENSO neutral, which means we've neither been consistently positive or negative with the Southern Oscillation Index, and we can see this from our numbers. So in this column just here, that's the air pressures for Tahiti, and in this column here, that's the air pressures for Darwin. So again, measuring the air pressures between Tahiti and Darwin in the South Pacific Ocean. And again, you can see that, for example, on the 1st of March, we was really quite negative with the SOI, down to minus 17.47. 29th of February, also down to minus 16.14. That's very reflective of an El Nino type atmospheric state. But just a couple of days later, on the 4th and the 5th of March, the SOI goes to plus 7 and plus 7 again. And that's the atmospheric state being much more reflective of a La Nina type setup. More recent days look like this. So, yes, we see that on the 9th of March, we're at minus 3. 10th of March, we're at minus 7. But the 11th of March goes to plus 1. The 12th of March goes to plus 2. The very latest, for the 15th of March, because they're ahead of us, Australia, goes to plus 4.07. That's the atmospheric state weekly reflective of a La Nina. And whilst we are trending negative and positive numbers like this, we will remain at ENSO neutral. So this is exactly what you expect to see when we're at ENSO neutral. The SOI 30-day average, which is this red line, you see that's not moving very much. It's just sort of going up and down a little bit from minus 2 to minus 4 there, and then up to minus 1.5, back down to minus 3.5, but very little deviation overall. So ENSO neutral conditions continue, and we are waiting until we get beyond the spring to see where ENSO is going to go next. This is how things are in terms of Arctic sea ice and Eurasian snow cover. So again, been such a poor season for snow cover across many parts of Europe and also the west of Russia, and now very early end to the snow cover season seemingly for Western Russia. The snow line has pulled back quite a long way now from the west of Russia. That's it's only up to the 14th of March that. Let's change the colour. It's only up to the 14th of March. That's very early to see snow line receding back from the west of Russia So pretty grim times for both Europe and also Western Russia in terms of snow cover. We have got a little bit of snow cover up here. And also, of course, those mountainous areas like the Alps, Pyrenees, those sort of areas have got snow cover, as they always do. I mean, up over, particularly northern parts of Scandinavia, we haven't done too badly in Baltic Sea areas. In the north, mountainous areas, okay for snow there, but overall, it's been a very, very poor season for snow cover because, of course, it's been such a mild westerly and Atlantic-driven winter, and the Armada has been driven in by the strong jet stream and the areas of low pressure, the polar vortex acting as the engine to drive everything. It's driven the westerlies and the mild air in off the Atlantic into Europe and on into west of Russia as well. You have done pretty decently though this winter for Arctic sea ice. So we've got all this yellow. That's where we've got Arctic sea ice. So yes, plenty of ice going on up there in the Arctic. If we have a look at this chart, which of course is from the National Snow and Ice Data Centre, you can see that on this blue line, that's where we currently are for Arctic sea ice extent just here. And we've been doing better than our more recent 10-year averages over the past few weeks and months. So again, if I put in the, let's put in the 2011-2019 average, that's this second blue line. So you can see that we continue to be ahead, or we have more Arctic sea ice extent compared to the 2011 to 2019 average. That's 2020 just there. And this is 2011-2019 average. So we are above that. We're doing better for Arctic sea ice extent than our most recent 10-year average. If we put in 2001 to 2010, we continue to be tracking very closely to the 2001 to 2010 average. That's this darker coloured line just here. So yes, we are more or less on parity with the 2001 to 2010 10-year average. For 1991 to 2000, we continue to be lagging that very significantly. That's the green line just there. You can see that we're well under that. So put things into perspective, yes, we are having a better season for Arctic sea ice extent, but we are well below like the 1991 to 2000 average, and we're even further below the 1979 to 1990 average, which is this orange line just here at this point. Let's get rid of those two. At this point, the 1979 to 1990 average is topping out up here. And we're down here, of course. So, yes, we're doing better than our most recent 10-year average, and we're on a par with the 2001 to 2010 average, as we have been the past few weeks and months. But we're putting in perspective, we are well below the 1991 to 2000 Arctic sea ice extent average, and we are even further below the 1979 to 1990 average. This doesn't say how thick the Arctic sea ice is as well, so this doesn't measure whether this ice that has formed this winter will be able to withstand the melt season in the summer. But we take any good news we can get. This has been a little bit of good news for Arctic sea ice extent. But again, we don't know whether this ice that's formed through this winter will be maintained through the summer. It could be very thin and rather flimsy and prone to melting when we get through to the melt season. QBO is looking like this. So, of course, quasi-binary oscillation is an index that's reflecting the strength of the zone of westerlies. It moves from its westerly to easterly phase. Very sort of cyclical type thing. Should be very consistent, almost like a pulse or a heartbeat. That is very, very consistent, waxing and waning from westerly to the easterly QBO. When you're in a westerly QBO, the zone of westerlies are strengthened. When you're in an easterly QBO, the zone of westerlies are weakened. This is particularly important for winter forecasting, although the QBO can have impacts on other seasons as well. On this graph, it's from NASA. On this chart, the easterly QBO is depicted by the blue and green areas. Let's get rid of that, that's wrong. The easterly QBO is depicted by the blue and green areas. The westerly QBO is depicted by the sandy browny coloured areas. We are transitioning into an easterly QBO. The easterly QBO is descending, but it's doing so very, very slowly. So you have to think of this as kind of like levels of the atmosphere. This is 10 HPA just here up in the stratosphere. This will be down on the surface where we're all walking around. So we can see from the last transition from a west to an east QBO, which is just here, back in the middle of 2017, notice how smoothly the easterly QBO descends down through the levels of the atmosphere from 10 HPA to 20 HPA to 30 HPA. 30 HPA is kind of like the beginning of the troposphere. It's in the boundary between the strat and the troposphere being where weather takes place. Very smooth descent into the easterly QBO. This easterly QBO is or hasn't descended anywhere near as smoothly. You can see up here we have got the easterly QBO within the top levels of the atmosphere, in the stratospheric level. But notice how it's just been kept at that sort of level. It hasn't descended smoothly yet. And instead, we've kept these raggedy, sort of sandy, browny coloured areas going around 30 HPA, which is like the last remnants of the westerly QBO. Westerly QBO does not want to give up the ghost and let the easterly QBO sort of push down into the troposphere. Although, in the past few days, and we'll just zone in on this. So if I just click that, we should push in quite closely. Over the past few days, we have begun to see the easterly QBO strengthening a little bit lower down towards the 50 HPA level, 40 to 50 HPA level, just there. You see how the blue colour is beginning to deepen and intensify. So we are going to go into the easterly QBO definitively. We are too far. We did get a failure of the easterly QBO a few years ago in 2016. I'm sure we're not going to get that. We are going to descend definitively into an easterly QBO. It's taking a little bit of time to do it, but through this spring we will transition into a proper easterly QBO, and this could be the start of it. Actually, this strengthening down here could be the start of it, going properly into the easterly phase of the QBO. So it's on its way. It's going to happen. It's just taking a very long time, this one, for the easterly QBO to get going. Winter 2020-2021 should be, if everything works out as we expect, that winter should be a strong and mature easterly QBO winter. And of course, we shall keep you posted on how the easterly QBO is developing in the next few weeks and months. Arctic oscillation observed and forecast is looking like this. So again, black line shows where we've been with the Arctic oscillation. Red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. So, of course, had a very positive AO throughout this winter. This just needs to reflect in the atmospheric state in the Arctic, this time measuring the air pressures in the Arctic. When the AO is positive, as it has been through this winter, you've got lots of low pressure up over the Arctic. You'll keep the cold air bottled in, therefore, over the Arctic and the North Pole. You won't allow that to descend down into mid-latitudes, or at least not very often. And of course, that's the reason we're seeing a slightly better winter in terms of Arctic size extent, because it's been so very cold within the Arctic, or large parts of the Arctic this winter. Anyway, where we are with the AO right now is in sort of very positive territory. We are record-breakingly positive, as we was back in February, but nevertheless, the positive phase of the AO, which has been going on now since like early December, the start of December, is when we transitioned into this positive AO. We did go a bit negative there with the AO in the second half of December, but overall, been a very, very positive phase of the AO since the beginning of December, and where we are right now is still very positive with the Arctic oscillation. GFS ensembles are forecasting that certainly for the next week to 10 days, the AO is staying solidly positive. We are seeing indications, though, late on that the AO is beginning to drop, beginning to move back down towards, let's say, a more neutral phase, possibly even going a little bit negative. But let's say at the moment, the GFS ensembles are forecasting the AO to move towards a neutral type phase towards the end of March. I mean, we know we've got the southern stratospheric warming coming up, in the next few days. I'm not going to look at that in this video because we talked about it a lot over the past few videos, and we will look at it again tomorrow, but I thought we'd just ease off on the stratosphere stuff for this one today. But we know that sudden stratospheric warming is on the way in the next few days, and one of the things we'll be looking for to see whether we get a tropospheric response via northern blocking as we go on into April. If we are going to get a northern blocking response to that sudden stratospheric warming, we will see it and it will become apparent on these charts, and we will see the AO going into a negative phase in April. At the moment, we're not seeing signs of that. We are seeing signs of a reduction of the Arctic oscillation back towards a more neutral phase. But at the moment, we're not seeing a signal for negativity of the AO. But then again, it is very early. You wouldn't expect to see that until we move on into April, really, possibly even into May. So that's going to be something to keep a close eye on, like in a month or so's time. NAO observed on the forecast chart is very similar. So again, the black line shows where we've been with the NAO, the red lines at the end where GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. This time, index that's reflecting the atmospheric state in the North Atlantic, measuring air pressures between Iceland and the Azores. So the NAO has been in its positive phase through winter. The NAO is still positive right now. That means it had a very strong Icelandic low and a strong Azores high as well. That strengthens the zonal westerlies, particularly if it's combined, as it has been this winter, particularly if it's combined with a positive AO. And GFS ensembles are forecasting that the NAO will also stay positive for the next couple of weeks as well, taking us to the end of March, really. So, but for the time being, certainly for the next week, probably the next 10 days, everything is still pointing to ongoing sort of positivity of the AO and the NAO. There may be a bit of a change coming towards the end of March, particularly in terms of the Arctic oscillation, but it's a little bit too far out to be able to say that with any sort of confidence or definitively. Right, let's do some forecasting, and we're going to have a look at the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Looking at Manchester today, so red line is 30-year upper air temperature average for Manchester. We're going to go a bit cooler in the next few hours, but then temperatures will lift up through the early part of this week. It will actually become very mild Tuesday and Wednesday down the south because the temperature goes around 16 or 17 degrees. Then we've got a cold snap coming up at the end of the week and into next weekend. A little bit of uncertainty about how cold it's actually going to get. Some of these ensemble members down here are still taking the upper air temperature down to -10 at 850 HPA. However, I think overall the GFS, along with a lot of model output, is just lifting off the very intensely cold or unusually cold upper air temperatures that we were seeing a couple of days ago. Remember, it did look so it might bring the -10 Celsius isotherm in from the east next weekend. Just easing away from that, backing off from that a little bit. But we are going to get a cold snap, definitely, at the end of the week and into the weekend. And let's go through the last week of March. As this period just here, we see the upper air temperatures are recovering, so becoming milder into the last week of March. So as precipitation is concerned, dry, and it has been, not completely dry. So we've got rain today, of course. So we have a couple of drier days. Cold front on Wednesday, introducing this drop in temperature, could be quite active, bring heavy rain to the north anyway. And then after that, we're going to the colder phase, but also rather anticyclonic, so plenty of dry weather in there. Not totally dry, there might be a few wintry showers or snow flurries around, but generally quite dry through that period. Last days of March look like they're going a little bit more unsettled again. So maybe signs of more unsettled conditions through the last days of March, because that's very extended range stuff. Overall, the situation continues to be as it has been, drier than we've had for some time, and a more anticyclonic signal, albeit quite cold for a while through next weekend in particular. Temperature anomalies from the 15th to 23rd of March, overall a little bit below average, much of the UK and Ireland. And precipitation anomalies from the 15th, 21st to 23rd of March, overall a little bit drier than average. So very different to what we've had through much of this winter, where it's generally been milder and wetter. This week is actually going to be a little bit cooler, a little bit colder, and a little bit drier than average. Over in America, it's turned cold there as well in many states, although this east and southeastern part of America has above average temperature anomalies, but the majority of the states actually looking quite cold, particularly these northern and western states. So the temperature anomaly there from the 15th, 23rd of March looking very cold in the north and the west. Rather unsettled as well in many states, so it does vary from state to state, but overall I think more parts of America are having above average precipitation anomalies, so that will be snow of course, given the cold temperatures, above average precipitation anomalies compared to the states that are drier than average. Right, so that's how the GFS midnight run was looking for Wednesday. So on Wednesday, it's very mild in the south, but we've got a cold front moving down from the northwest, bringing a band of rain and introducing colder air. Thursday and Friday, we get a cold snap, winds swinging to the north as this ridge builds out to the northwest. So you start to drag down cold air from the north, could be wintry showers in northern eastern parts of the country. Then into the weekend, high pressure to the north of Scotland, winds turning into the east, but not quite tapping into those very cold upper air temperatures that are sitting to our northeast. There they are over Scandinavia. We just need to have that high pressure a little bit further north, and have a slightly more long fetch northeasterly to drag those bitterly cold upper air temperatures with minus 10 Celsius isotherm into the UK. We are getting a little puddle there across eastern parts of Scotland, but overall not quite as cold with the upper air temperatures as we saw a couple of days ago. Nevertheless, quite a cold snap really for the time of year. And that's Sunday, a week away, so winds are in from the east. Then upper air temperatures are still looking quite cold, but again you see that the coldest of the upper air temperatures are being kept away to the east and to the northeast. And then moving up towards day 10, well, high pressure stays in control, so the main talking point continues to be much drier as we go into the second half of March. Winds sort of turning more southeasterly then and starting to draw up milder air from the south. We saw it on the upper air temperatures, didn't we, on the graph of Manchester. Through the last week of March, temperatures begin to stage a recovery. Low pressure out to the northwest, that's trying to bring unsettled conditions back in from off the Atlantic as well through the last week of March. That's how we finish up as far as we can go today with the GFS to Tuesday, 31st of March, and then we're back under a ridge of high pressure. And quite mild. GEM looks like this, so again a cold front bringing a band of rain southwards and eastwards across the country on Wednesday, introducing those cold northerly winds into the second half of the week. Then the high pressure takes over, winds turn into the east, but the coldest of the upper air temperatures kept at bay to our northeast because the high pressure is just a little bit further southwards. Notice how the energy is running in over the top of the high through here, so it's not a Scandinavian high that's centred up here. And if it was, then it would draw in a long fetch east-northeasterly. This high pressure is sort of centred very close to the country, which means the coldest of the air is going to be in that sort of position. Nevertheless, that will be a pretty chilly easterly that we have next weekend to say the least. You'll probably feel cold and it's done at any time through the winter just gone, I would have thought. Moving up towards day 10 again, wind begins to shift round more towards the southeast, so we start to turn milder. In fact, that could be rather spring-like by the time we get through to day 10, which is the 24th of March. We could be really quite mild and spring-like then, with winds in from the southeast. And the ECMWF looks like that, so a band of rain leading southwards on Wednesday, introducing those cold winds from the north-northeast. Low pressure develops down to our southwest with this as well, so a slightly different scenario. We've got low pressure down here towards Biscay, high pressure is up here. There's a bit of a fight going on, and then maybe some sort of front as well. Now, if we start to drag in cold air from the northeast, there could be a bit of wintry potential with that actually as we go into next weekend, but it is rather a different scenario compared to what GFS and the GEM was showing. Moving up towards day 10, well, then we start to shift winds into the southeast, so we stay dry and it begins to turn milder as well. I did forget that whilst we've been doing this, the 6 o'clock GFS run has been updated, so let's just have a very quick look at that, shall we? So let's look at 120 hours, and there we are. So again, we've got those cold northeasterly winds with the 6 o'clock GFS run there, and then we move through to next weekend, winds turning into the east. Same sort of idea as the midnight run was showing, winds in from the east, but again, the coldest of your upper air temperatures I kept away to the northeast. Let's skip on to day 10. I'm going to refresh, so that gets us to the 25th of March. Winds then kind of like southeasterly, that could be rather spring-like. High pressure still in control, so remains dry, but temperatures begin to stage a recovery there as we move into last week of March. Then we go further on to the extended range. High pressure continues to be blocking over and to the east of the country, so continues to be much drier. That's the main story. Much drier for the second half of March compared to the first half, with a strong anticyclonic signal by the very end of 6 o'clock GFS run. The last day of March, it looks like then low pressure is starting to move in from off the Atlantic. Back to ECM. So this is the precipitation type forecast from Tameteo.com based on the ECM run we looked at a couple of minutes ago. So today we've got wet weather across England and Wales. That will clear away, and they've got rain in the north and west through the early part of this week. And that's the cold front. We're going to introduce the cold snap through the second half next week. It starts off quite active. It will die out as it drifts southwards and eastwards. And then you remember we've got low pressure down towards Biscay as we get towards next weekend. End of the coming weekend into next weekend. And that's usually quite a lot of heavy rain in the south. There is potential as winds turn into the east-northeast. There could be some snow with that, particularly across high ground of Wales and the Midlands. It's very different to what the GFS and the GM are showing, though. And then that all gets out of the way, and we go into a drier and probably relatively mild and spring-like southeasterly as we move up towards day 10, and it turns much drier then. Let's see whether we can refresh the options on the table from the Icelandic Met Office. So they've not updated today. Unfortunately, we can't show you the options that are on the table, although possibly something's gone wrong there. So if I just do that, maybe be able to see them. Yes, they have updated. So there we go. I can show you the options that are on the table from the ECM ensembles via the Icelandic Met Office at day 10, which gets us to the 25th of March. So we have 37 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure out to our west, and high pressure is sitting over Scandinavia. So high pressure in control at day 10, winds in from the east, probably quite cold. 14 members of the ECM ensembles have high pressure further southwards, low pressure over the top in the north. Winds are more sort of west-southwesterly with that. That's still relatively dry, but it's a milder option. 2 weeks' time, getting us more or less to the end of March, 30th of month, we see 32 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure over Scandinavia, and winds are still in from a cold easterly direction. 19 with hints of a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge. Could be bringing wind from the northwest with that. So both options probably quite chilly actually for the end of March, and both relatively dry as well, you would have thought. CFSV2 looks like this. It's a 500 millibar height going down to week periods. The first week period takes from 15th to 21st of March. The coming week has low pressure out to the northwest, high pressure beginning to build to our south, jet stream starting to push back northwards as well. Gradually we're going into anticyclonic conditions. Week 2 is the 22nd, 28th of March. High pressure over Scandinavia, low pressure out to the northwest. We're much drier, and exact wind direction is critical with this. We could be bringing up relatively mild spring-like air from the south. Alternatively, we could be bringing quite cold air from the east or from the northeast. The main thing, though, is that it is much drier, of course. Week 3 is the 29th of March to 4th of April. High pressure then sort of to our south, low pressure beginning to come back to the northwest. So if anything, that possibly implies things are starting to turn a little bit more unsettled again as we begin to move up towards the beginning of April, and we see this confirmed in week 4. This is the 5th to the 11th of April, then looking like we're back into genuinely quite unsettled conditions again, with low pressure to the north and west, high pressure to the south, and we're bringing the jet stream back. So make the most of the drier second half to March, because if that's right, we could be going unsettled again by early April. April itself looks like this in terms of the CFSV2 700 millibar height anomaly, low pressure out to the northwest. Actually looking like quite an unsettled month now. With April, high pressure pulled back into the middle of the North Atlantic, so nothing to stop that low pressure coming in from the Atlantic. So yes, that does look like a relatively unsettled pattern, I'm afraid, for April. We was hoping we would have a drier April after the deluge autumn and winter that we've been through, but that suggests until weather comes back in April. Temperature anomalies are no better than average. Certainly we're losing the milder than average temperature anomalies that we've had for several months. And precipitation anomalies, again, they're very close to average, but you would have thought with a rather low pressure type signal, as we see there, we would probably have a rather wettish sort of month. We should wait and see about that. Finally, I'm just going to show you the 200 millibar height anomaly for winter 2020-2021 from Patal Peng. So remember I showed you these analogs maps last month, and last month Patal Peng was for Patal looks at sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans and more widely in the rest of the oceans on any given month. So it creates an analog based forecast going forwards based on those sea surface temperature anomalies. Last month Patal Peng was seeing a northern blocking signal for winter of 2020-21, very different to the pattern we've had this winter. He's still going for that sort of idea with all of these red colours here in the North Atlantic and up towards Greenland, below average heights across southern Europe. It still looks like Patal Peng is expecting northern blocking next winter, with winds coming in from an east or northeasterly direction based on the sea surface temperature anomalies that we had last month in February. This is ultra long range stuff. The temperature anomaly from Patal Peng for us for the winter of 2021 is close to average, but notice Spain going cold on average, and much of Europe over here also looking really quite cold. I think overall a colder winter is looking very probable there based on Patal Peng's analogs. Also drier, which of course you always get. If it's cold, it tends to be drier. As cold air holds much less moisture compared to warm air. So if it's cold, it will be dry, and Patal Peng is forecasting a dry winter. Totally different winter compared to the one that has just gone. Now, obviously, this is ultra long range stuff. I shouldn't really be showing you this because it's too far out, but I thought if we showed this every month, then you can see how these analogs forecasts sort of evolve and develop as we go through the rest of the spring and into the summer. And I thought it'd just be interesting, a little bit of an experiment to keep an eye on these and see how they progress through the spring and the summer as well. But at the moment, yes, Patal Peng's analogs are still forecasting northern blocking for the winter of 2020-2021, with lots of red colours there across the northern latitudes and the polar field. More on that next month, of course. Finally, if you've been enjoying videos lately, please can consider becoming a patron of GWV. We've got 63 patrons, so hello and a big thank you to our 63 patrons. We very much hope you're enjoying the content that we're producing at GWV at the moment. If you would like to become a patron of GWV, all you need to do is come to GWV's Patreon page, sign up for a Patreon account, you give us an ongoing monthly donation from $1 a month upwards. You will pool in with the other patrons, and that is how you become a patron for Gabs WeatherVids. There's also PayPal, so if you'd like to give a donation via PayPal, then again, just come to Gabs WeatherVids PayPal page. This you can do donation in pounds, of course. So you come here, you sign into your PayPal account, and then you give whatever donation you'd like to Gabs WeatherVids. Whether you do it through Patreon or through PayPal, you're going to get a mention in videos. We give you a shout out as long as you want one. Say thank you very much for doing that. Of course, you might want to mention somebody else. It could be a birthday wish. You might want to mention for your website or for your business. Happy to go to your business website, for example, give that a plug. So however you want that mention, we're happy to do it. And just let us know with a little note when you either sign up to Patreon or you give a donation through PayPal. We're primarily ads funded and will be remaining so. All of the content is completely free for everybody to watch, and that's how we're going to be staying. We won't be going behind paywalls or anything like that. We just ask that if you can afford to help us keep GWV.com online and keep the content online, then can you please consider becoming a patron or a donor. Right then, so that's it for GWV Sunday Roundup. That second summer analogs update we'll place on the summer updates page with a written summary this evening. I'll get that up for you later on. Do it all over again with GWV Sunday Roundup next week, of course. Don't forget to give us a like on the video. Let us know that you've enjoyed it through the comments. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll be notified when we release the content that you want to see. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.